And we're starting with rhubarb compote. Sounds a little complex, right? It's not. Sweet, pleasingly tart, so easy to put together. So here to show us how to make it, we have Chef Sandy Diamato. He's the owner of Good Stark Farm, cooking school, all that good stuff. That's up in Hatfield. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks, Seth. Good to be here.
It does sound a little complex. Is this an easier thing, a compote?
Well, this is much easier because you're going to see this is 4 ingredients.
Okay.
So it's butter, a little bit of sweet wine, some brown sugar, and of course rhubarb.
What is a compote? What's it consist of usually? What's it similar to?
Well, it can be, this is more a compote sauce. A compote usually means it's a reduced down mixture, more like, kind of like a preserve, but keeping the fruit intact. And that's what we're going to try and do with this. And with rhubarb, because it falls apart real easily, you want to keep it intact.
Perfect. Yeah, this is the time of year for rhubarb. So how does one start? We all know we're not supposed to eat the leaves.
Right, so we take off the leaves and we take off one of the end pieces. And if you want to cut this up just in about 1-inch pieces on the bias, make a little nice triangular piece.
Let's see. Like that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Now what are we going to do next?
Now we're just going to take the butter, put it in here.
Okay.
Actually, I think I'll move this one over to this one. This one's a little hotter.
There we go, hot pan.
So what we do is we brown the butter first,
okay,
and that gives it a nice nutty flavor. And then we're gonna stop the butter when it just gets to that hazelnut. That's why they call it hazelnut butter. If you've ever heard that, because it gets to a hazelnut color and an aroma, so you get that nutty aroma to it.
So we want the brown, but we don't want the burnt. And I imagine those go from one to the other pretty quickly.
They do. I mean, there are uses for burnt butter.
Are there really?
Yeah, there's a classic dish in French cooking which is skate with black butter. And then you deglaze it with vinegar and capers.
That sounds great.
It's delicious.
Now my question is, though, you brown the butter and then you put everything in. If you're still cooking it, how do you make sure that the butter doesn't go from brown to black?
Well, because what happens is once you add the sugar in, and here's the, you can see it's just gotten brown now and it's smoking a little bit. You add your sugar in, and you add the wine in.
And because you have other things in there, it's going to kind of paralyze the brown sugar, rather the brown butter.
It stops it from cooking.
Okay.
Because the liquid will always stop it from cooking. Then you just throw your rhubarb in. Do a little toss-up.
Oh, very well done.
And then at this point, what we do is we have a preheated oven, 375 degrees, if you want to stick that in the oven. Second.
All right, here we go, shall we? Now, how long do we put it in the oven for?
We put it in, you check it after about 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes, and then what you want the rhubarb to be is just tender and cooked through, but not falling apart. And this is what it ends up to be. So there it is, and then it's nice and soft, and then that's your combo.
That's it.
You're done.
Wow.
So that's and it makes a really nice sauce. And later on we'll do a little. You can use any kind of cake you want. I brought a little lemon semolina cake that we make at the school. But you can kind of use anything in there.
So this is more of a dessert than an appetizer.
This is a dessert. So this is the sweet. So now we're going to do the savory side of it. And this is going to be for a dish that we'll be doing in the second segment with the halibut. But what we have to do is we have to do a little bit of mise en place. So what we're doing is taking our radishes.
And mise en place, for people who don't know, that's more or less prep work, right?
Yeah, it's a French term. It means everything in its place.
Okay.
It means everything in its place in the dishes that you're getting together, but it also means everything in its place in your head, so that you know what you're going to be getting done. And what this helps you do is it helps you get everything ready so that when your guests come over, I mean, it's the same thing that you do in a restaurant. In a restaurant, you get it ready so that when the people come over, you're ready for them. But in your home, you have it ready so when the guests come over, you actually have time to spend with your guests.
That's right. And if you think everything through, it makes cooking a lot easier. When you know where everything is, it's all cut up and good to go.
Right. And so I'm just putting in a little bit of water.
Okay, I saw a teeny bit of butter.
Yeah, that was actually the butter that was in there. Actually, we're using oil in it, but we'll use
oil in this one too. Okay.
And then just season them up real lightly with a little salt and pepper. And this will be. We're just going to cook these till the radishes are done. That's all we're going to be doing now for that.
Okay.
And then we're going to be getting the last thing for our mise en place will be our halibut.
Now we can use pretty much any white fish if halibut's not.
Right, you could use. I mean, you can use salmon. I mean, which is really. I mean, there's beautiful wild salmon around right now. I mean, halibut is is very spring, and it's really. I mean, it comes in the Pacific and from around Alaska, and then there's also Atlantic halibut. So you can get either one.
Okay. Pretty much anything works. So we put them in a bag.
Right, and then we're going to add little lemon juice. This is a real simple marinade.
Just olive
oil?
oil?
This is walnut oil.
Walnut oil, huh.
And it gives it a very, very distinctive flavor.
Is that oil like a distinctive smell and taste? Can you really?
Yeah, you can smell it. I mean, it's walnuts.
Wow, it smells great. Just a little salt and pepper?
Yeah, just season these lightly, and you just stick them in the bag.
Now, how long would you keep it in here to let it marinate?
For about an hour, no more than an hour.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm doing it now. So then when we come back, it should be just marinated really nicely, and we'll sear it off.
All right, we'll finish both these dishes up in a little bit, and we'll get to eat some of it.
Yeah, we're going to get to eat both of them.
Excellent. We're back with Chef Sandy D'Amato. He's the owner of Good Start Farm in Hatfield, cooking schools, all that good stuff. And now we are finishing up our two dishes. The first that we did was this rhubarb compote earlier in the show.
Right. Now we're going to do the savory side, which is the chutney. And what I've done, as you can see, before we left, we started with the water in there, and it's just a little water, salt. And what we did was actually make what is called, in French, like a poêlée.
A poêlée.
And what that is you cook all the moisture out. You add your vegetable in, you put a little water, a little butter, and then sometimes a little touch of sugar. You take all the water out of it, and it keeps all the moisture in there. And then you saute them up at the end with the oil and the sugar. That isn't this is just kind of the start of it.
Yeah,
that isn't exactly what we're doing, but that's what you do if you're doing.
It's a similar technique.
But what we're going to do at this point is we're going to start the chutney part, which we're going to add
so a little more brown sugar,
vinegar.
Okay. Any kind of vinegar? Do you have a preference?
Red wine vinegar.
Okay.
It's good for this. And then doing some chipotle, ground chipotle, and just a little more salt.
A little of that goes a long way when it comes to the chipotle.
It does. It does. And then at this point,
we just let it cook down for a little bit.
Right, and the reason that we cooked the radishes before is once we add the acid to the radishes, it changes their structure.
Really?
And it changes the starch in them and the sugar, and they don't really, they could cook for like 20 minutes and still be hard.
That's fascinating. I did not know that.
So you want to cook them off beforehand.
Okay.
So now we'll get this, I'll do this one over here, and we'll get this pan ready for the fish.
Now, earlier in the show, we made the most simple fish marinade, but so effective. A little bit of, got that balsamic vinegar in my eyes. A little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of oil, walnut oil.
Walnut oil, lemon juice, salt, pepper.
Easy.
That's all it is. And then this is marinated. You can see it's gotten a little bit white around here because that lemon does cook it. That's why you don't want to go really more than an hour.
Yeah, it's not if you do an overnight marinade, you're toast.
Right. Half an hour is fine.
Okay. Because that's the ceviche is the cooking term, right? When it
cooks,
starts to cook.
it cooks in the acid.
Okay.
So we'll add a little touch of oil to this.
Okay. And how long roughly on each side should this go for?
Well, this is a little under an inch. What the method that usually a lot of people use, this was the Canadian method, and I'm not going to knock Canadians because we love Canadians.
I was going to say we don't want to have an international incident on Mass Appeal today.
But I'm just going to throw the rosemary in here as this reduces. But the Canadian method was 10 minutes an inch.
Oh, that seems like a lot of. That seems like a lot of minutes per inch.
It is. So what I do for an inch of fish, and then we'll get a clean one ready for this to come off. What I do for an inch of fish is I figure about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So that would be 2.5 minutes per side.
Okay. Great.
So for this, and halibut, you really want to be vigilant with it because halibut cooks really quickly.
Oh, does it?
And when it's overcooked, it's as they would say, toast. It's not fish anymore. So it's something that you really want to be careful with.
Well, why don't I'm sorry?
I just could show you with this chutney now. So we've got everything in there. We put the rhubarb back in, and the raw rhubarb, and now we're just cooking out the rhubarb. And you want to make it so that it kind of glazes down.
Okay, and this way it's a sticky almost glaze when you put it on top of the fish.
Yeah, just like you would for like for normal for a normal chutney. This is what we're going to end up with.
Oh, that's the finished product. That looks great. Well, you know what? Why don't we take a little break right now because that needs a couple minutes on each side.
Right.
We'll show off the finished dish at the end of the show.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
By the way, if you want a copy of this recipe, it looks so good. It smells even better. I want to do this all the time. Just visit us online, mymassappeal.com. By the way,